and welcome to the Top Shelf on the Inner Circle Network. This is your host, Anchorman V2, talking about whatever I feel like is important. And this week we'll be talking about Wonder Woman. This is sort of a review and more of a discussion on things going forward. There will be no spoilers in this review, at least nothing important to the plot, and not even like little Easter egg stuff. We will get into a few little details, but nothing too revealing, if you get my drift. So, briefly talking about the movie in terms of the plot. Overall, it's a solid plot. The basic premise is this is an origin story for Wonder Woman. It starts off in Themyscira, talking about, oh, this is where you came from, you're made from clay, going on and on. Steve Trevor crashes on the island, and they go off to go see World War One in all of its gory detail. Now, I'm not going to get into anything more specific than that. It's ultimately a fish out of water story where you're having an extremely naive Wonder Woman going into a dark, gritty World War One setting, and it's pretty decent. It's a very traditional plot, following a more of a 3-act structure. It's really not going to ruffle the feathers of any Wonder Woman fans. They don't do any like earth-shattering changes to Wonder Woman's mythology, rather, but it is very safe. They don't try to do anything that's like, oh, this is too edgy for me. There was nothing like super dark. There wasn't like any aspect like in Batman vs. Superman where it was just like, what is this? Like Batman killing people. There's nothing like that per se, where it's just completely what. Like I said, it's very safe. It's not trying anything drastically new, but it is a very good, solid plot. Now, talking about some of the characters in this movie, you got Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman delivering a very solid performance in this movie. It's not the best performance you've ever seen. It's definitely not the worst. It's good. Like on a 10 out of 10 rating scale, I give her like a 7, maybe an 8. Like I said, it's not great, but it's good. The male lead in this one is Steve Trevor, being played by Chris Pine, which is... He kind of makes the movie. He kind of brings in the human element to it. He kind of plays more of a straight man. Delivers some good jokes ultimately, but kind of has to break reality down to Diana throughout the movie. And he's just a likable character. It's not like a Captain Kirk kind of vibe like you're seeing with these the new Star Trek movies, but it is a fun, more lighthearted role that he kind of fulfills. Now they have Diana's mother. Largely forgettable, honestly. They had Claire, or what's her name from House of Cards, as Antiope, and she kind of like this general who trains Diana, and she does a pretty good job. Now, really, characters that kind of stole the show for me personally were the 3 soldiers in this film: Sammy, Charlie, and Chief. They kind of formed this. I don't know what they're called. This is kind of like this is a actual team in DC. I do not know them personally. It's basically kind of like this Howling Commandos thing, like from Captain America, where it's these guys from all different nationalities kind of coming together and having this like they form their own squad, and it's fun to watch. They give enough character development to each individual person, and they really bring them together, and they give each person enough time to shine. And you like all the characters, and it's fun, and it's enjoyable. I was really digging this ensemble together, and it was great. For those of you who don't know, these are the guys who are in the picture that are in Batman vs. Superman. These are that group together with Wonder Woman. And it's great. I really enjoyed watching the movie. Now, it's not all sunshine and roses here. The villains in this movie are largely forgettable. I mean, it's Dr. Poison. Yes, Ares is in the movie. I will not say in what capacity, but he is in the movie. Again, largely forgettable. These are throwaway characters you're probably not going to see going forward. They just... It's kind of like some Phase 1 Marvel villains. They're there. There's no Loki here. Like, you're not seeing people who are going to come back, definitely. You're just seeing... Yeah, you got Ironmonger or Abomination. And it's just enough to get you through. And that's pretty much it. They don't really try anything beyond that. The villains are kind of just one-offs. They're not there for a long period of time to really draw you in. They're more just excuses for action to take place going forward. So, speaking of action, let's talk about some of the action in this movie. It's very well done, well choreographed. They use, like, my only critique would be they use slow mo a little too much. They'll like, it's cool when they're doing the bullet time thing and you see the bullet go by and Diana's looking at it. It's like, oh wow, that's cool. But like, they do these like really like these pauses on certain moves, and they do it just a tad too much. Only critique I have really in terms of the action. I've heard, I did not personally see this issue, but I know other people were mentioning it. Gal Gadot needs a little more work on the green screen work. They have mentioned this. I did not personally see a problem, except for some of the lasso stuff. But then again, that just requires time and practice. That's all it really needs. At least, again, I did not see any real green screen problems. At least nothing noticeable to me. So, talk about continuity for a minute. There is almost no connection whatsoever to the DCEU in this one. There's really no Easter eggs of note. All it really is just the setup behind the picture. The picture that you see in Batman vs. Superman, it's like, hey, we're going to give you the picture, and she has a flashback. That's it. There's no real connection to anything else, nothing I noticed. I'm sure there's something out there that some person will analyze every single frame, and they'll find something, but like I said, there's no real continuity issues in this one. I would even consider this one more of a soft reboot of the DCEU. They changed the tone of the universe. Like, it's not so dark and dreary anymore, which is kind of funny because the future is so dark and dreary in terms of the tone and aesthetic styling, but the past is so bright and colorful and just enjoyable. It's like, yeah, it's kind of odd like that. So, just some notes in general. A lot of people are throwing out this the best of the DCEU movies. That really means nothing. Considering the DCEU movies are basically Man of Steel, which is kind of half and half. Some like, some don't like. Batman vs. Superman, which is mostly hated. Suicide Squad, which is mostly disliked. So, I mean, saying it's the best of the DCEU movies really means nothing. Now, no doubt, this movie is a good movie. I have no qualms about saying that whatsoever. It is a damn fine movie. The thing in particular, though, it's not a very original movie, if you catch my drift. This movie is basically a hodgepodge of Captain America First Avenger and Thor 1. But with one caveat. It is better than both of those. They pick and choose different parts from those movies, but elaborate on them and largely make them better than what they were. For an example, largely in Thor 1 is a fish out of water story with Thor becoming mortal and having to deal with society and that kind of stuff. And they do the same thing with Diana in this one. A lot of stuff doing with the dresses and stuff and realizing man's world and the reality of how complicated things are. And they do this better than in Thor 1. Another thing in particular is, like I mentioned this before, with the Howling Commandos kind of thing, like in Captain America, where they have Dum Dum Dugan and the rest of those guys in there. They don't give them any time to develop themselves in the movie, per se, other than, like, short little quip lines, and that's it. But in Wonder Woman, they give these guys time to develop, and you actually have a connection with them. Now, admittedly, there are less of them, but still, they do it better than in Captain America First Avenger. And that is something to be lauded. Now, in terms of the larger continuity, DCEU and MCU and DCEU combined, this movie is pretty much better than all the Phase 1 stuff that the MCU has. It is like I said, it is a damn good movie. The only exception to the Phase 1 rule would be, like, maybe Iron Man and Avengers. Beyond that, I mean, I think overall, as a continuous product, Wonder Woman is better. It's better than Thor. It's better than Incredible Hulk. It's better than Iron Man 2. It's better than Captain America First Avenger. It is better than all those movies. The only thing in particular I would throw in as a caveat, other than, you know, the movies I mentioned earlier, is that this is 2017, and they should have done this movie first. That's the only critique I would have done. They should have done this movie first, but I will say overall, this movie is a good movie. You should definitely go check it out. I will be surprised if this movie does not break 1 billion. This is Wonder Woman here. This is a part of the DC Trinity. She should have enough star power to break the billion mark, and you guys should support her. I will say one funny thing that I saw that happened in the theater, which I thought was just kind of funny, was when we were walking out of the movie, somebody said, "What is she joining the Avengers? Why didn't she see Captain America?" I'm like, oh my god. But anyway, guys, I really enjoyed Wonder Woman. I gotta say, if I had to give it a score, I give it a 7.5, which is a good rating from me. I'm normally pretty critical on movies and such, but definitely go and check out Wonder Woman. I am glad I was proven wrong to an extent. Like I said, the movie has some flaws, not many, but it's a good movie. You guys should check it out overall. So anyway, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching the show. I hope you guys have a good weekend. Have a nice day.